Hello, this is Starlight Stories for Magical Children. My name is Andrea. Here you will find a collection of stories that were given to me from some very special storytellers. Storytellers from magical realms, the animal kingdom, and Mother Nature. And as you listen to these stories, maybe you'll begin to see that the world around you really is magical, just as you are too. Our storyteller today is Beatrice. Beatrice lives in a cottage in the woods, and she is, in fact, a witch. Now, before you turn off the story, I just want you to know, I am well aware that many of the stories that we hear about witches portray them as being villainous or maybe even child-eating, but I can assure you Beatrice is neither of those things. She is kind and she is loving, and she loves living in her cottage in the woods. Not to try and lure children to her door, no, but because she loves to be in nature, for nature is where she gets her magic. She loves having long-winded conversations with the owls and receiving advice from the trees and singing songs back and forth with the mushrooms that have grown on the fallen logs. That is where her home is. Now, the reason why Beatrice wants to share this story with you today is because she loves the winter solstice. And today is the winter solstice. Have you heard of the winter solstice before? The winter solstice is a special day because on this day it is the longest night of the year. For since midsummer, when the sun is at its highest and the days seem like they go on forever, since this time, the days have actually been growing shorter. Maybe you've noticed this where you live. But after today, after this winter solstice, the sun begins to return, and gradually the days will grow longer. So the winter solstice provides us an opportunity to be in the darkness with the hope of the return of the light. And Beatrice, though she has many stories to share, is especially excited to share this one with you today. And so, let's begin. It was the day of the winter solstice. Beatrice was in her warm cottage, wooden spoon in hand, black kettle in front of her, tossing ingredients into the pot. Now you might think, since you know that Beatrice is a witch, that she's making some sort of a winter solstice potion. But this time it's actually her traditional winter solstice stew. For the winter solstice was one of the most celebrated days by Beatrice. She loved the winter solstice, and this is because she loves the dark. Now, if you're a bit like me, you might feel a little nervous in the dark, as it's hard to see clearly, or scared as objects cast their shadows and our imaginations run wild. But Beatrice, she loved the dark because she knew that it was in the darkness that a light could shine its brightest. She was always looking to see the light in everything and everyone around her. So as the sun began to sink lower in the sky, Beatrice was preparing to serve herself a bowl of warm stew to enjoy by the fire, when she heard a knock. Well, that's peculiar, Beatrice thought, for she rarely got visitors. For the people who lived in the town closest to her had also heard the same stories about witches that you and I have heard, and they kept their distance, never taking the time to get to know Beatrice to see that she was really nothing like the witches in those stories. So she spent much of her time alone. But here she was, the winter solstice, someone knocking at her door. Her curiosity grew, and she walked to her front door, slowly opened it. She looked around, and then down on the ground by her feet was a white bunny rabbit. "Oh," she said to herself. She reached down and scooped up the bunny rabbit, brought her inside and laid her on a blanket near the fire. She found something for the bunny to munch on, and she was just about to grab her own bowl of food when she had a thought. Bunny rabbits can't knock on doors? And she almost laughed out loud, imagining this bunny knocking on the door. No, she thought, there must be someone else out there. So again, her curiosity leading the way, she walked to her door, slowly opened it, and oh, sure enough, standing a little ways away from the door was a child. The child looked cold and hungry on this winter solstice evening. And remember how I said that Beatrice was able to see the light all around her and everything and everyone? Well, she could see that the inner light of this child was dim, and she knew this child needed some help. She also knew that it took a great deal of bravery for this child to come and knock on her door. She didn't want to scare the child away. So, with her most loving voice, she said, "Please come inside and warm yourself by my fire." But the child didn't move. She didn't respond. Beatrice thought, how can I show her that it's safe for her to come inside? Ah, that's it, she said. She quickly went back in her house and grabbed a blanket off the shelf. This was a magical blanket, for she had sewn in many threads of love. So whoever wears the blanket is wrapped in love and warmed from the inside out. This is it, she said. So she brought the blanket outside. She slowly walked towards the child, and with an outstretched arm, clutching the blanket, she said, "Here, at least take this." With some hesitancy, the child did reach out and slowly took the blanket, and she wrapped it around her shoulders. And in that moment, the child knew that she was safe with Beatrice. "Can I come inside?" she asked. "Yes," said Beatrice, please come inside." And so the child followed Beatrice back into her cottage. Beatrice pulled up a chair for the child to sit by the fire, but instead she chose to sit down next to the bunny rabbit. Beatrice wondered, suspecting that maybe the child and the bunny rabbit already knew each other, that this wasn't their first meeting. She grabbed another bowl down from the shelf, filled it with the warm stew, and brought it to the child. And just as she filled her own bowl, she looked out the window and saw that the last rays of light were dipping below the horizon, and the sky was dark. The longest night was beginning. And as she took her bowl back to the fireplace, she sat near the child, and as she glanced at her, she noticed that the child's inner light was beginning to grow. For sometimes, all it takes is a safe place to rest, a warm bowl of food, a companion, and love. In this winter solstice night, even in the darkness, the light could still shine. And although the story is coming to an end, Beatrice wants me to share with you that each and every one of us, yes, including you, have a light inside. And sometimes we can feel this light burning bright, and other times it can feel like it's a little dim. And sometimes we can share our light with others, and sometimes other people share their light with us. And together we can help our light shine bright. And sometimes we can find ways to keep our own light growing, even in the dark, when the night is the longest night of the year, even when the night seems like it will never end. So as we close this story, I'd like you to imagine that you are also wrapped in a blanket of love. Feel your own light grow on this winter solstice night. The end.